Okay, hello, good afternoon. Welcome back to another live Hindu and Indian Express analysis. Today is Monday. It's a fresh month. It's September, and I hope you all are preparing really well. We are just 3 months away from CLAT now, and it's high time that you amp up your preparation. How many of you are here for the class today? Quickly give me a response in the chat box if you are here. Responses in the chat box, please. Are you guys here? Okay, I can see some responses now. Priyanshi is here. Good morning हो रही है प्रियांशी. अरे लगता है आप लेट सो के उठे. कोई बात नहीं. गुड मॉर्निंग आपके लिए. जब जागो तब सवेरा है ना. कोई बात नहीं. हेलो रिद्धि. गुड आफ्टरनून गौरवी. गुड आफ्टरनून पर्व. गुड आफ्टरनून प्रियांशी. हेलो तन्वी. गुड आफ्टरनून गौरिका. गुड आफ्टरनून सर्वेश. वेलकम बैक टू द क्लास एवरीवन. लॉन्ग टाइम नो सी. लास्ट हम मिले थे कब? फ्राइडे को. यस, फ्राइडे को मिले थे. टुडे इज अ मंडे. वी आर बैक विद अनदर हिंदू एनालिसिस. गुड आफ्टरनून तन्मय. कोई दिक्कत नहीं प्रियांशी. गलती तो इंसान से ही होती है. ओके चलो ठीक है. विल वेट फॉर 30 more seconds फॉर मोर पीपल टू ज्वाइन इन द क्लास एंड देन वी शैल स्टार्ट. ठीक है. तब तक आप लोग मुझे बताओ प्रिपरेशन कैसी चल रही है नाउ दैट less than 90 days are left for CLAT. When is Menti scheduled? Menti is scheduled tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tuesday. Menti, Mukti. How is prep going, guys? On a scale of 0 to 10, how is preparation going? क्या टॉपिक डिसाइड किया था हम लोगों ने? आप बताओ मुझे. What was the topic which was decided? It was June, July, August के करंट अफेयर्स. भूल गए आप लोग? भूल गए तो फिर तैयारी तो बिल्कुल नहीं करी होगी, है ना? चलो, रिद्धि से 7 on 10. Parv is saying 7. Priyanshi, the topic is June, July, and August current affairs. We'll have a quiz on that. Tanmay says 7.5. Good afternoon, Rajnandini. Tanvi is saying 6. Last mock was bad. It's okay. If one mock goes bad, that's not the end of the world, but that definitely means that you have some things to work upon. So just work on the areas which went bad. Gorika says 6. Last mock was something. See, you are not alone. It was bad for everyone. So that is relieving to a certain extent. But again, keep working on your mistakes. Keep working on improving what went wrong. All right, Anika, good afternoon. चलो ठीक है, start करते हैं. We have enough audience to start. Let's start today's Hindu analysis. If you all are ready to start, quickly give me a ready in the chat box. Ready in the chat box very quickly. And we shall start our analysis for the day. I need a ready in the chat box from all of you. Good afternoon, Yashraj. Okay, everyone is ready. Lovely. Let's start. I hope my presentation is visible to all of you. These are the topics for discussion for today. Today is 2nd of August. Sorry, not August. 2nd of September. And it's a Monday, and I'm your host, Govind Singh, your faculty for GK, LR, and English. The first topic is India's Neighbourhood Watch. This is an editorial article in the Hindu newspaper. The second is Judicial Appointment, also an interesting article in the Hindu newspaper. We have had a discussion on this, but because it's mentioned again, so we'll quickly take a look at this article as well. Then there's an article regarding LGBTQIA plus and their rights, specifically related to them not being able to get ration cards. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we have a very interesting article on the lie detector test. Now, many people call it the polygraph test. Many people call it the truth test or whatever, multiple names. So we'll understand what is the lie detector test and what are the mechanisms which are used in the lie detector test. What are the different ways to catch that a person is lying. And lastly, of course, we'll do a few new words of vocabulary. Okay, so that's the agenda for the day, and let's start without any further ado. The first topic, India's neighborhood watch. So, firstly, which all countries are India's neighbors? We have Pakistan on the left side, on the western side. We have China here. Then we have Nepal. Then we have Bhutan. Then we have Myanmar. Then we have Maldives, and you also have Sri Lanka down south. Just on your east, you have Bangladesh. And the interesting and the sad fact as of now is that most of these countries are going through a lot of chaos, and in some cases a lot of unrest, a lot of violence as well. That being said, it becomes important for us, India as a country, to have a watch on the neighbors and look at what the past was, how our relationship has evolved with them, what is the current relationship, and how we can, improve the relationship going forward in the future. So this is an article by a gentleman who has been India's ambassador to the United Nations, India's representative to the United Nations. It's a very good article. He has explained how there was a phase in the previous decade. Specifically, he is talking about 2008 to 2010, where democracy was restored in maximum of our neighboring countries. He gives you examples of Pakistan. He gives you example of Bangladesh. He gives you example of Myanmar. So we'll look at all these examples, what happened in these countries in 2008 to 2010, how democracy was established, how India helped these countries, Sri Lanka was also there, how India helped these countries restore their democracy, restore their peace and, fabric of the society. And now we are at a junction where everything is chaotic, everything is haphazard, and India needs to redefine its diplomacy, its geopolitics related strategy, because we are at present not in the best of relationships with our neighbors. Even when you talk about Sri Lanka, when you talk about Bangladesh, when you talk about countries like Maldives and Myanmar, Pakistan is obviously our beloved, very close friend, right? And of course, you have China, who is always looking to establish its dominance, be it territorial dominance or diplomatic dominance or economic dominance over the whole Indian Ocean region. So, how we can counter China's presence, how we can collaborate with our neighbors is what this article talks about, along with the historical context. ठीक है चलो should we read this article on the newspaper? चलो इसको देखते हैं क्या है आर्टिकल में. Okay, so see, change in a short span. Nearly 16 years ago, between 2008 to 2010, in a span of just 3 years, epoch-making events unfolded in India's neighborhood. Ushering in democracy and promising much, there was a period which was coincided with the writer's stint as head of division for Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Maldives, and Myanmar in the Ministry of External Affairs. India had played a positive catalytic role to further this process. Catalytic as in speed up the process. Okay. In December 2008 in Bangladesh, after military rule under General Moin Ahmed, Sheikh Hasina became Prime Minister in 2009, riding on the strength of a massive mandate, especially from women and youth. Now, important GK fact for you here is, when did Sheikh Hasina become the Prime Minister? Because Sheikh Hasina has been in news for a long, long time. India is giving asylum to her. Bangladesh mein unrest is happening. All the reservation wala controversy, we have discussed that at length multiple times. So these are few facts which you should remember. In fact, Pranab Mukherjee played a big role in holding elections in Bangladesh, free of army interference. So earlier, army used to interfere a lot, like it does in Pakistan, even as of now. Then you have, after over 15 years, India and Bangladesh forged a mutually beneficial partnership with Hasina's government displaying sensitivity to India's interest. Then he gives you an example of Sri Lanka, how the LTTE group came to an end. So this was the group which was sort of a separatist organization and wanted to create unrest in the southern Indian states, basically operated from Sri Lanka. And they were finally able to defeat LTTE in 2009. I think this organization was also linked with the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, if I'm recalling it correctly. And they were able to end it. Without the sword of the LTTE over India's head, India could look forward to closer relations with the United Sri Lanka. Recently, Sri Lanka also faced some sort of political chaos, and their president fled the country. Can you tell me the name of the person who fled the country, Sri Lanka? What was the name of that political leader? It's not a very old news. Okay, in October 2008, in the Maldives, after 30 years of President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom's autocratic reign, the first multi party democratic elections were held in where Mohammad Nasheed took over as president, who's currently leading the government in Maldives. Tell me in the chat box. In spite of ups and downs, the last three consecutive elections have ushered in three different presidents, showing democratic maturity of the Maldives in nearly 16 years. Then you talk about Myanmar. After 20 years of militancy rule, then USDP came to power and Aung San Suu Kyi was freed after phases of imprisonment. Subsequently, her party had landslide wins, indicating strengthening of democratic roots. Even Pakistan elected a civilian government, sending President Pervez Musharraf into exile. These developments gave hope that democracy, with all its imperfections, was taking root in India's neighborhood. It is not a coincidence that the years 2008 to 10 also witnessed an exponential increase in India's developmental assistance to its neighbors. So India gave multiple grants and loans, be it giving it to Sri Lanka for their recent crisis when Sri Lanka faced a big food scarcity, and be it giving a line of credit to Bangladesh, which the author mentioned, $1 billion, or connectivity projects in Myanmar, budgetary support in Maldives. So India has used its checkbook diplomacy. Now, what do you mean by checkbook diplomacy? Offering financial assistance to win over and establish diplomatic relationships. This is something which China does a lot. China invests a lot in infrastructure projects, be it your Pakistan, be it your Sri Lanka, be it your Bhutan, be it your Nepal. China uses checkbook diplomacy to its fullest. And he's saying that in those years, India was also matching China in the checkbook diplomacy front. Now, then he talks about the present situation. Most of us know what the present situation is in most of these countries, be it Bangladesh controversy where Sheikh Hasina has fled, and now an interim government has been formed which is anti Hasina, and India is housing Sheikh Hasina. So, again, we need to engage in a dialogue with Bangladesh as well as keep our relationships stable with Hasina in case she comes back to power. Now, this is a mistake which we also did in Maldives, Myanmar, where we just sided with one side of the government and then coup happened or the government changed and then we were caught wrong-footed and then we had to re-establish our diplomacy with these countries. So we need to keep a neutral stance, not favor any particular government or any particular regime, rather than focus on winning over the country rather than winning over a particular government or a regime. And this is what this article basically tells you. It tells you about Sri Lanka had its own Bangladesh movement when President Rajapaksa fled Sri Lanka, which I was asking you in the chat box. Then, could India have anticipated it? Very unlikely. But what India did in the aftermath was commendable. India's timely and generous bailout package of $4 billion saved the economy. Since India had built bridges across the political spectrum in Sri Lanka, it is in a much better position, irrespective of who comes to power in the forthcoming elections. Exactly what I was trying to tell you about, right? India has even made peace with the Janta Vimukti Peramuna, a right-wing party which has usually been anti-India in its stand. So he's saying that we need to do this similar measure for all the countries, be it your Bangladesh, be it your Maldives, be it your Myanmar, and even be it your Bhutan. Bhutan has had good relationships with India, but recently China's influence is growing a lot over Bhutan as a country, so we need to counter China's presence as well. Here they are talking about Myanmar, the military government, the military coup which happened. They also give you the example of Taliban. So now we are even establishing relationships with Taliban, which is, we all know what sort of a government that is. But again, we have to engage diplomatically with a country's regime. So we are establishing our relationships with Taliban as well after their rule in Afghanistan. And Pakistan saw its civilian government toppled in 2022, widely seen as at the army's behest as in the past. So Pakistan में तो चलते ही रहता है बार बार मिलिट्री को. इनका तो कोई भी प्रेसिडेंट नहीं, सॉरी, प्राइम मिनिस्टर हार्डली इनका टेन्योर पूरा कर पाता है. So इनका military coup keeps happening. New Delhi's response is a key factor. सो अगेन वही रिस्पॉन्स की बात वही हो रही है कि तालिबान में हमने कैसे हैंडल किया सिचुएशन, श्रीलंका को हमने कैसे फाइनेंशियली हेल्प आउट किया, then Myanmar and Bangladesh gave centrality to India's interest post serious challenges. Myanmar is veering towards a possible civil war, and Bangladesh is struggling to get back on its democratic feet. In both cases, going along with forces trying to keep democratic space open is India's best bet. So we need to establish democracy, re-establish democracy, I would rather say, in these countries, which is India's best bet. Why? Because democracy is more stable as compared to military regime or as compared to rule by a party which is authoritarian in nature, and that would destabilize not just that country but also things in India. There are multiple things. There are infiltrations, there is drug trade, there is trafficking, there is disruption of economy. तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो हमारे लिए ज़रूरी है कि हमारे नेबर्स जो कंट्रीज हैं उनमें डेमोक्रेसी अच्छे से इस्टेब्लिश हो, so that we can also function well with them and without them. In the midst of these upheavals, the importance of India's robust developmental support becoming the bedrock for fostering closer relationships with its neighbors and their people is underestimated. Even the Taliban hesitated to attack Indian projects over the last 2 decades since it benefited the people. So we need to benefit the people rather than appease to a particular regime, is what this whole article's gist is. It's a good article, very interesting article to understand how geopolitics works. So make sure you give it a read. Not that we have read it together, but keep it in mind. Okay, so that brings us to the end of first topic. I hope that's clear. Now let's talk about the second topic. The second topic is regarding reforming the process of judicial appointments. So before we discuss that, you all tell me, how are Supreme Court judges appointed in India? Tell me in the chat box. हम डिस्कशन कर चुके हैं इस पे काफी ज्यादा. I'm looking at the chat box. Yes, India is taking a neutral stance. Collegium system, absolutely. President appoints on the recommendation of the collegium. What is the collegium? Collegium is a group of 5 people headed by the Chief Justice of India and the 4 Supreme Court judges. So these are the 5 people, 4 senior most Supreme Court judges, and headed by the fifth, which is the senior most CJI, which is Chief Justice of India. Who's the current Chief Justice of India? Current Chief Justice of India and the next Chief Justice of India. Tell me both the names, because the current Chief Justice of India would retire before your CLAT exam happens, and the next Chief Justice would be appointed. अभी से पता होना चाहिए आपको नाम. नाम तो डिसाइड हो चुका है. ओके, चंद्रचूड़, थोड़ा जस्टिस वस्टिस लगा दिया करो यार, इज्जत से नाम लिया करो, चीफ जस्टिस है. ठीक है, DY चंद्रचूड़, यस. हाँ जी, सही है. And who's the next? Who's gonna be the next? Justice Sanjeev Khanna. Justice Sanjeev Khanna would be the next Chief Justice after Justice DY Chandrachud retires, I think, in November. So, coming back to our discussion, that how are Supreme Court judges appointed? So they are appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Collegium, and this is mentioned in which article of the Indian Constitution? Which article of the Indian Constitution talks about the appointment of Supreme Court judges? Tell me in the chat box. You should know the article. Tanvi is saying screen is not visible. Is the screen not visible, guys? Article. Which article, guys? Come on. पता होना चाहिए ये. It's Article 124, ठीक है? Article 124. Article 124 says President would appoint the judges on the recommendation. अब ये जो consultation या recommendation, ये जो word use किया है, this has created a lot of controversy. And we have discussed this earlier. There were 3 landmark cases: the first judge's case, the second judge's case, and the third judge's case. This may the debate was whether there should be a consensus, whether the president can go ahead without the, let's say, confirmation या फिर consensus or agreement of the collegium. उस समय collegium तो नहीं होता था, collegium is a recent development, but again the recommendation of the Supreme Court. तो जल्दी से रिकैप कर लेते हैं एक बार कि कैसे चीजें इवॉल्व हुई, हाउ इट वर्क्स. So Article 124 says that the president would appoint judges with consultation with the chief justice, and first judges case जो हुआ था किस ईयर में, 1981 में. 1981 में ये डिसाइड हुआ था कि executive would hold supremacy over judiciary and the president would have the final call. President just has to inform the CJI कि भाई हम इसको जज अपॉइंट कर रहे हैं, बस बता दिया, जस्ट इन्फॉर्म करना होता था. इन्फॉर्म वॉज द इंटरप्रिटेशन विच वॉज डिराइव्ड बाय द कोर्ट इन द फर्स्ट जजेस केस, that the president just needs to inform. The president does not have to concur. The president does not have to come to the same meeting of the mind and conclusion that we are deciding this guy. They just had to inform the CJI. So again, this made the judiciary feel threatened regarding their independence. And in order to regain this control regarding the appointment of Supreme Court judges, the second judges case came. इन केसेस के नाम मैं आपको ऑलरेडी बता चुका हूं, तो आपको पता होने चाहिए, आपने नोट बनाए होने चाहिए. ठीक है, नहीं पता तो जाके वापस वाली क्लास देखना या गूगल करना. ठीक है, तो सेकंड जजेस केस में फिर से डिस्कशन हुआ कि ये कंसल्टेशन का मतलब क्या है. व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द वर्ड कंसल्टेशन, दैट द प्रेसिडेंट अपॉइंट्स विद कंसल्टेशन ऑफ सीजेआई. तो सेकंड जजेस केस में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि कंसल्टेशन का मतलब सिर्फ इन्फॉर्म करना नहीं होता. कंसल्टेशन का मतलब यू हैव टू कंकर, यू हैव टू अग्री ऑन द सेम थिंग, यू हैव टू हैव अ कंसेंसस. एंड इसी की वजह से कलीजियम सिस्टम भी बना था टू कंसोलिडेट द ओपिनियन ऑफ द जुडिशरी कि भाई अब एक कलीजियम रहेगा, अब 3 लोग आपको बताएंगे कि उनका क्या रिकमेंडेशन है और उनके साथ मिलके उनकी रजामंदी से आपको अपॉइंट करना पड़ेगा जज. और ये सेकंड जजेस केस आया था 1993 में. उसके बाद से आपका कलीजियम सिस्टम एग्जिस्टेंस में आ गया. उससे पहले कलीजियम सिस्टम नहीं होता था. And this is an important fact which you should know, that collegium is nowhere mentioned in the Indian Constitution. This word is not there in the Constitution. It is, you could say, invention made by the Supreme Court, made by the judiciary. ठीक है, तो इस केस के बाद फिर से थर्ड जजेस केस भी आया. थर्ड जजेस केस आया इसके 5 साल बाद इन 1998, जिसमें ये कलीजियम सिस्टम को और ज्यादा स्ट्रेंथन कर दिया गया, which is its current form, that is a collegium of 5 members, CJI plus 4 senior most judges. So this 5 member collegium system was formed in the year 1998. ठीक है, आपको याद रखना है थर्ड जजेस केस. अब ये तो हो गई चलो हिस्टोरिकल डेवलपमेंट की कलीजियम कैसे बना है. अब हमको पता है कि कलीजियम अपॉइंट करता है, प्रेसिडेंट अपॉइंट करता है कलीजियम के रिकमेंडेशन पे, एंड रिकमेंडेशन या कंसल्टेशन का मीनिंग क्या है वो भी अब हमको पता है. करेक्ट. तो अब क्वेश्चन ये आता है, आर्टिकल ये डिस्कस कर रहा है कि क्या एक इंडिपेंडेंट कमीशन होना चाहिए फॉर द अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ जजेस या फिर ये कलीजियम सिस्टम ठीक है. तो कलीजियम सिस्टम में दिक्कतें क्या क्या है. चलो पहले दिक्कतें डिस्कस करने से पहले आप ये बताओ कि कलीजियम सिस्टम इज बेटर और हैविंग अ डिफरेंट इंडिपेंडेंट कमीशन इज बेटर फॉर द अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ जजेस. जैसे पहले एनजैक बना था, नेशनल जुडिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट कमीशन, which was made by I think the 99th Amendment Act. 2014 में बना था, I guess, if I'm not wrong. तो 2014 में 99th Amendment Act आया था, जिसमें एक कमीशन बनाया गया फॉर द अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ जजेस, जिसको बोला गया एनजैक, नेशनल जुडिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट कमीशन. बाद में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उसको स्ट्राइक डाउन कर दिया कि भाई ये अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है, दिस गोज अगेंस्ट द वैल्यूज ऑफ आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, द बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, जो कहता है कि जुडिशरी शुड बी इंडिपेंडेंट, जुडिशरी शुड हैव सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर, जुडिशरी शुड नॉट बी कंट्रोल्ड बाय द एग्जीक्यूटिव. ठीक है, तो एग्जीक्यूटिव से हम कमीशन से जजेस को अपॉइंट नहीं करने वाले, सॉरी, दैट्स नॉट गोना हैपन, एंड दे स्ट्रक इट डाउन, डिक्लेयर्ड इट अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल. तो एनजैक हटा दिया गया. बट अब बात हो रही है दोबारा से एनजैक को लाने की, कलीजियम सिस्टम हटाने की, क्योंकि कलीजियम सिस्टम के काफी ज्यादा क्रिटिसिज्म आ रहे हैं. आप लोग बताओ, विच सिस्टम डू यू थिंक as per your understanding would function better, the collegium system or having a commission? कमीशन जो होता था एनजैक वाला, उसमें क्या होता था, उसमें होते थे आपके चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया होते थे, उसमें आपके लॉ मिनिस्टर होते थे, 2 एमिनेंट लीगल जूरिस्ट या पर्सनालिटीज होते थे जो लॉ की फील्ड में 2 डिस्टिंग्विश्ड लोग हैं, और 2 सीनियर जजेस होते थे. तो 1 2 3 4 5 6 आई थिंक 6 लोग होते थे एनजैक में। ठीक है, तो 2 सीनियर जजेस, 2 एमिनेंट लोग, लॉ मिनिस्टर एंड चीफ जस्टिस। ये था एनजैक का कंसेप्ट, जिसको स्ट्राइक डाउन कर दिया गया क्योंकि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि नहीं, हम ही करेंगे अपना अपॉइंटमेंट खुद से। Okay, Gupta versus Union of India. Yes, that was one of the judges case. कलीजियम सिस्टम के लिए काफ़ी सारे लोग सपोर्ट में हैं। Subjective question, but I think in Jack, if it is involved, the collegium system methods as well. Balanced mix of both. देखो balanced mix नहीं चल रहा ना, in Jack में balanced mix ही तो था, but that did not work out. Supreme Court struck it down. Collegium system is a better reliable system. कलीजियम सिस्टम को एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए सर। देखो कलीजियम सिस्टम बहुत सिंपल है। कलीजियम सिस्टम में अपॉइंट प्रेसिडेंट ही करता है, ठीक है, बट किसके रिकमेंडेशन पे, किसके कंसल्टेशन पे? एक ग्रुप के। कलीजियम इज बेसिकली अ ग्रुप ऑफ 5 पीपल हु 5 द 5 सीनियर मोस्ट जजेस, ठीक है। एक तो आपके चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया हो गए और उनके बाद वाले 4 सीनियर मोस्ट जजेस, ये 5 लोग मिला के बनते हैं कलीजियम। अब ये 5 लोग अपनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग पे, कोई पैरामीटर्स नहीं है इसके, कोई मेरिट के पैरामीटर्स या कोई सीनियोरिटी के पैरामीटर्स या फिर कोई गाइडलाइंस, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है। जस्ट बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट दे थिंक इज अप्रोप्रिएट, which person should become a judge, these guys send recommendations of names to the president and the president is sort of bound to approve them, because collegium system के साथ ही आप अपॉइंटमेंट कर सकते हो। collegium system के अगेंस्ट जाके president cannot appoint। ठीक है, Arman is saying why was collegium better? I'm not saying collegium was better. collegium अगेन सी, कलीजियम के क्रिटिसिज्म क्या क्या है? काफी सारे कलीजियम के क्रिटिसिज्म है। वन इज देयर इज ऑलवेज अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ नेपोटिज्म एंड बायस, दैट जजेस कैन फेवर सर्टेन पीपल whom they are closely associated with, ठीक है। तो एक जज का हो सकता है कोई रिश्तेदार हो, वो उसको फेवर कर दे। So that was one criticism levied against collegium system. Another was lack of transparency. कोई आपको प्रोसेस नहीं पता कि किस बेसिस पे, क्या मेरिट के बेसिस पे लोग बन रहे हैं या सीनियोरिटी के बेसिस पे बन रहे हैं, किस बेसिस पे लोग सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजेस बन रहे हैं। देयर वाज नो ट्रांसपेरेंसी, इट वाज अ वेरी, यू कुड से, ओपेक प्रोसेस। एंड और भी काफी सारी चीजें, देयर वर लॉट ऑफ डिलेज इन द प्रोसेस, क्योंकि बैक एंड फोर्थ होता है, एग्जीक्यूटिव और जुडिशरी में टसल होता है, कभी प्रेसिडेंट नहीं एग्री कर रहे, कभी कलीजियम नहीं एग्री कर रहे, तो वो टसल भी होता है। तो वो सारी चीजें हैं, बहुत सारे क्रिटिसिज्म है कलीजियम सिस्टम के। बट अगेन, what is better, what is not is a very subjective question, as Arman also said. George is saying commission will reduce the problem of bias. Yes, it could, but it could also, again, what do you call it, breach the independence of judiciary. Judiciary पे एक तरीके से influence आ जाएगा bureaucrats का या executive का। अगर law minister को say मिल जाएगा उस चीज में, तो फिर again judges में भी एक तरीके से एक वो fear आ जाएगा कि भाई अगर मैं इस मिनिस्टर के अगेंस्ट गया तो ये मुझे सुप्रीम कोर्ट जज नहीं बनने देगा। आप समझ रहे हो इसके इम्प्लीकेशंस क्या क्या है, कि जुडिशरी जो है इंडिपेंडेंट रखना क्यों जरूरी है? ताकि जजेस कैन ऑपरेट विदाउट एनी बायस, जजेस कैन ऑपरेट विदाउट एनी फियर ऑफ एनी प्रेशर फ्रॉम एनी मिनिस्टर और एनी ब्यूरोक्रेट। एंड दैट इज व्हाई एनजैक वाज आल्सो, मतलब दिस वाज देयर रीजनिंग कि एनजैक वाज क्रैप्ड डाउन बिकॉज इट इंटरफेयर्ड विद द इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ द जुडिशरी। So again, this is a subjective question. There is no one right answer. There are both pros and cons for both the system. एक बार article आपको दिखा देता हूँ what the author is saying. He is also giving you examples of other countries कि other countries में commissions हैं। South Africa का I think example दिया है article में, और भी 1-2 countries का example दिया है। I think UK का भी example दिया है। Let's look at it. In April, while 60 lakh cases remain pending in various high courts, 30% of the seats remain vacant, according to a report published by डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ जस्टिस। विच सीट्स? सीट्स ऑफ जुडिशरी, जजेस की सीट्स, ठीक है। तो एक ये भी इन पे काफी ज्यादा वो लगता है क्रिटिसिज्म कि भाई जुडिशरी की सीट जल्दी फिल नहीं हो रही। कलीजियम सिस्टम वर्सेस एनजैक। प्रॉब्लम ऑफ अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ जजेस which is linked to problem of pendency of cases has always been a matter of debate in India. Delays in appointments are often caused by standoff between executive and judiciary. This was exacerbated when the Supreme Court struck down the NJAC, exacerbated as in increased. ये मैंने आपको बता ही दिया। Then the court held that the collegium system which is in place protects the independence of the judiciary, जो मैं आपको अभी समझा रहा था। Since the world over, the judiciary is not the sole body which appoints judges. This argument has always appeared weak. अब यहाँ पे आर्ग्यूमेंट ये आता है कि भाई सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजेस एक तरीके से खुद का अपॉइंटमेंट खुद ही कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, तो इट रेजेस अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस ऑफ पार्शियलिटी एंड बायस कि भाई जजेस ही जजेस को अपॉइंट कर रहे हैं, तो वो चीज़ भी आ जाती है. The proposed body would have replaced the collegium system in order to give it credence. The NJAC was to be headed by the CJI and include the law minister, two eminent persons, and two senior judges. जो मैं आपको composition बता रहा था. Judiciary contended that the NJAC would give the government excessive control over selection of judges, therefore undermining its independence. The court determined that the NJAC may jeopardize impartiality and objectivity in the appointment process, thus endangering judicial independence. However, a number of legal professionals, including former judges, have argued that NJAC is a better system. If appointments of judges have to take place faster, we need to bring back the NJAC prior to any plan being finalized. All relevant parties, including judiciary, legislative, civil society, and bar associations, should be consulted. Bar association मतलब lawyers के association, वो drinking वाला bar नहीं है, ठीक है. Lessons from the countries. Other countries के इन्होंने example दिए हैं यहाँ पे. For instance, the Constitutional Reform Act introduced by UK established two commissions for choosing candidates, one for courts in England and Wales and other for Supreme Court. Then they are giving you an example of South Africa having a judicial service commission that advises the president to appoint judges. It comprises of the CJI, the CJSA, the president of the Supreme Court of Appeal, judge president, minister of justice, two practicing advocates, two practicing attorneys, a professor of law, 6 persons designated by National Assembly, 4 persons designated by president, and 4 permanent delegates to the National Council of Provinces. काफी बड़ी body है इनकी. फ्रांस का इन्होंने एग्जाम्पल दिया है. प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द रिपब्लिक होल्ड्स द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल ड्यूटी टू सेफगार्ड इंडिपेंडेंस बट डज नॉट डायरेक्टली सेलेक्ट जजेस. Judges are chosen through process involving High Council of Judiciary or in case of lower courts by Minister of Justice. Then he's giving you a recommendation, a suggestion of reworking the NJAC. NJAC was an elegant reform. It could have resulted in faster nominations. In its present form, the collegial system under the CJI along with 4 judges recommends appointments and transfers is opaque. यानी non-transparent. No one knows what criteria are to select judges. System offered room for favoritism, यानी favoring one particular candidate, which could prevent competent and deserving judges from being appointed. Despite its supposed faults, the NJAC can be reworked by taking into account views of the judiciary, executive, and civil society, and the need to strike a balance between the two. So essentially वही यही कह रहे हैं कि बैलेंस स्ट्राइक करो एंड रीवर्क करो एनजैक को, इसको लेके आओ ताकि स्पीड बढ़ जाए जुडिशरी के अपॉइंटमेंट की, क्योंकि पेंडेंसी ऑफ केसेस इज अ बिग कंसर्न इन इंडिया एंड दैट इज द आर्टिकल फॉर यू. Okay, let's come back to the next topic. I hope this topic is clear for everyone. Yes, quickly give me a yes if both the first and the second topic is clear. India's neighborhood and judicial appointments. Yes in the chat box, please, so that I know everyone is on board before we start the third topic. Yes. Yes, Radhika, author is recommending to have a body like NJAC. He's saying that keep the judiciary and the executive and everyone into account, take the consensus for all of them, from all of them, and make a NJAC like body. George is saying, why not create a body similar to that of choosing the election commissioner? Again, the process, election commissioner is a post which comes into picture only when elections are happening. Judiciary is a post which is going to be in existence for throughout the year, multiple years, right? And independence of judiciary is far more important than the election commissioner being appointed and him being impartial or unbiased. तो judiciary क्योंकि they deal with serving justice, तो वहां पे कोई भी एक threat या fear of bureaucracy and ministerial legislation वो नहीं हो सकता. जबकि इलेक्शन कमिश्नर में उतना ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट और उतना ज़्यादा इन्फ्लुएंस आप नहीं कर सकते. देयर आर मैकेनिज्म्स इन प्लेस on how the election commissioner would function and how the whole setup would function. There's a whole statute regarding it, how elections would be conducted. There's a code of conduct regarding it, but you cannot regulate judges in those manners, right? Through a particular legislation that a judge would act this way, judge would pass a legislation this way. That would mean the death of judiciary. Judiciary would no longer be independent. ओके, चलो सबको क्लियर है, बढ़िया है, अंडरस्टूड है. अगले आर्टिकल पे चलते हैं. LGBTQIA+. इस पे हम पहले भी बात कर चुके हैं, कुछ दिन पहले ही हमने डिस्कस किया था रिगार्डिंग द राइट्स ऑफ LGBTQA. We discussed the two landmark judgments which are related to this community. Can you guys tell me the name of the two landmark judgments? जब भी हम बात करते हैं LGBTQ की, हम इन दो जजमेंट्स की बात करते हैं. जल्दी से मुझे नाम बता दो चैट बॉक्स में, ताकि मुझे खुशी हो जान के कि आपको पता है और आप क्लास में सुनते हो आसानी अच्छे से. जजमेंट्स के नाम मुझे बता दो related to LGBTQ community. Chat box. Yes, Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India was the latest judgment, I think in 2018, which decriminalized section 377 of the erstwhile IPC, the Indian Penal Code. और बताओ, और कौन सा जजमेंट? There was one more judgment before Navtej Singh Johar, which decriminalized 377. It was a Delhi High Court judgment, I guess, which was overturned by the Supreme Court. And I have told you about that judgment. That case name also starts with N. No, I'm not talking about NALSA. NALSA was recognition of the third gender. Also a very important case related to LGBTQ rights. So not a wrong answer per se. NALSA is a case related to this domain. But I'm talking about the NAS Foundation case. You guys remember NAS Foundation, जिसमें कोर्ट ने डिक्रिमिनलाइज कर दिया था 377 को, फिर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसको ओवरटर्न कर दिया, फिर नवतेज जौहर ने 2018 में फिर से इसको अपहोल्ड कर दिया कि भाई दिस इज डिक्रिमिनलाइज्ड 377. ठीक है, तो अब बात कर लेते हैं. इंश्योर LGBTQIA प्लस कपल्स गेट राशन कार्ड से सेंटर. अच्छा, आर LGBTQ marriages legal in India? Yes or no? Can you legally marry a person of the same sex in India? Yes, no? No. इस पे भी कोर्ट में पिटिशन आई थी, बट द कोर्ट रिफ्यूज्ड. They said that we cannot include same-sex marriages into the Special Marriages Act, and they refused to give legality to LGBTQ marriages in India. So अभी marriages are not legal. एंड ये कह रहे हैं कि जो LGBTQ कपल्स हैं उनके लिए वी नीड टू इंश्योर राशन कार्ड्स. LGBTQ कपल्स को, नॉट जस्ट कपल्स को, LGBTQ एज अ कम्युनिटी को बहुत ज़्यादा स्टिग्मा फेस करना पड़ता है, बी इट फिजिकल एक्सप्लॉयटेशन, बी इट मेंटल एक्सप्लॉयटेशन, be it discrimination when it comes to domains like education, domains like ration card hi keh lo, availing government services, be it domains like availing jobs. In the job sector, they are discriminated a lot against, and they are exploited a lot in other sectors such as drug trade, begging networks, right? Basically all the illegal and immoral things they are forced to do because they are not given jobs, they're not given proper education, they're not it's not easy for them to assimilate into the society. So a step in the right direction could be getting them ration cards for first. Treat partners as members of the same household. It tells states and union territories, calls for making provision to allow a person to claim the body of partner when the next of kin is not available. तो देखते हैं आर्टिकल क्या कह रहा है. Let's read the article. किधर गया, नीचे आए थे. Article is saying the union government on Sunday said LGBTQI couples will be considered part of the same household for the purpose of ration cards. An advisory for which was recently issued by Department of Food and Public Distribution. All states and UTs have also been directed to take measures necessary to ensure that these couples are not discriminated against. So they have given multiple suggestions, calls for suggestions that how to integrate them into the ration card system. क्योंकि same sex marriages तो have been refused. It is noted center submission that it would form a committee to look into the scope of entitlements for these couples. Government formed this committee headed by cabinet secretary. Subcommittee was also formed. Subcommittee would meet, etc., etc. They would talk about issues like social welfare, healthcare, public good services, police action, violence. Home Ministry also issued advisories regarding prison visitation rights of people from LGBTQ community. Department of Financial Services also issued a clarification saying that couples cannot be prevented from opening joint bank accounts that they can nominate each other. So although marriage जो है solemnize नहीं हो सकती, legalize नहीं हो सकती, but बाकी सारे जो चीजें हैं वो उसकी access they are trying to give through issuing advisories to different states. All of the different departments of the union government is working in that step. Apart from this, the center on Sunday said the health ministry's advisory to stakeholders called for ensuring their rights concerning healthcare planning awareness activities, prohibition of conversion therapy, availability of reassignment surgery, changes in curriculum, provision of teleconsultation, sensitization, and various levels of training. And the DG of Health Services has also written to all state departments to ensure healthcare and reduce discrimination against LGBTQIA plus couples and the whole community. ठीक है, तो this was about the article. It was just a factual article. इसमें कुछ ज़्यादा discuss या deliberate करने का नहीं है. Diksha is saying why LGBTQ groups are not given legality. Good question. This is a lengthy topic. Let's finish our next topic, and if we have time, we'll circle back to this debate. I want to have a good, fruitful discussion on this, so we can take this up tomorrow. But it's a long debate. काफी सारे उसके वो हैं यार, aspects हैं, implications हैं, social implications, legal implications, financial implications, societal norms primarily. India as a country, in the opinion of the court, is not ready for such a move. ठीक है, चलो इस पे करेंगे हम डिस्कशन करेंगे. अभी आज का एनालिसिस हम पहले कंप्लीट करते हैं. Then fourth is the lie detector test. Are lie detector tests legally valid? Why is there a question on legality of lie detector test? What is illegal in a lie detector test? Can you guys take a guess? Why is there a question on legality of a lie detector test? ऐसा क्या illegal है इसमें? चेक ही तो कर रहे हैं, बंदा सच बोल रहा है या झूठ बोल रहा है. लीगल इलीगल का क्वेश्चन क्या है? Any guesses? There should be fundamental right as right to gender in my view. Okay. Interesting opinion. Pradnesh is saying it can be manipulated. नहीं, वो तो चलो ठीक है, वो तो टेक्निकलिटी की बात हो गई कि whether the test is credible or not. I'm talking about the legality. Invading someone's conscience, yes. Because it is against consent and violates Article 20. Absolutely. Brilliant answer. It is in violation of your fundamental rights, especially Article 20, Clause 3. Self-incrimination. What is self-incrimination? A person accepting his or her, not accepting, but forced to, let's say, give a statement which goes against himself. मतलब वो अपने आप को ही क्यों फंसाना चाहेगा कोई, तो उसके फंडामेंटल राइट्स का वायलेशन है. ठीक है, अ पर्सन कैन नॉट इंक्रिमिनेट हिमसेल्फ. यू कैन नॉट फोर्स अ पर्सन टू इंक्रिमिनेट. अपने अगेंस्ट दी गई गवाही कोर्ट में वैलिड नहीं होती. यू कैन नॉट इंक्रिमिनेट योरसेल्फ. सो इट्स अ वायलेशन ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट, नॉट जस्ट आर्टिकल 20 बट आल्सो आर्टिकल 21 of your right to privacy, of your right to freedom and liberty, not freedom and liberty, right to life and personal liberty. Why? Because in multiple lie detector tests, in some types of lie detector tests, you are also injected with a medicine, with a serum, which is obviously against your consent. No one would want injection in their body which forces them to speak the truth. So it is also a violation of Article 21, life and personal liberty, privacy. तो वो सारे aspect भी हैं. So it becomes a question against fundamental rights. 2010 से पहले काफ़ी होता था lie detector test. अब इसमें भी काफ़ी सारे components होते हैं. इसमें ना इसको जो the umbrella word for this is DDT. What is DDT? DDT is deception detection test. क्या आप deceive तो नहीं कर रहे हो, क्या आप सच बोल रहे हो या झूठ बोल रहे हो. तो डिसेप्शन डिटेक्शन टेस्ट के अंदर आपका काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें आ जाती हैं. आपका पॉलीग्राफ टेस्ट आ जाता है, What is your polygraph test? Polygraph test में multiple health parameters आपके check किए जाते हैं. Your fluctuation in blood pressure, your fluctuation in your pulse, the fluctuation in your eye movement, etc. etc. तो वो आपका पॉलीग्राफ टेस्ट होता है. उस तरह से एक और टेस्ट होता है आपका डीडीटी के अंदर, विच इज योर नार्को एनालिसिस, जिसमें यू आर इंजेक्टेड विद अ ट्रूथ सीरम. द नेम ऑफ द केमिकल इज सोडियम पेनोथेल आई थिंक सो. आई राइट इट डाउन. तो ये एक दवाई आपके अंदर इंजेक्ट करी जाती है, विच स्लोज यू डाउन, विच स्लोज योर ब्रेन एक्टिविटी, ताकि आप सोच के एक झूठ मैनिपुलेट ना कर पाओ एंड आप सच बोलना पड़े आपको. सो दिस इज नार्को एनालिसिस विच ऑल्सो कम्स अंडर दिस. देयर इज ऑल्सो ब्रेन मैपिंग which is tracking the brain waves through multiple sensors and devices. So all of this comes under DDT, which is deception detection test, and all of this started the whole debate around this started in 2010. 2010 से पहले it was pretty much okay to have a lie detector test, but उसके बाद काफी सारे cases हुए. The primary landmark case in this regard is Selvi versus State of Karnataka. I'll write it down for you. सेल्वी वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ कर्नाटका, ये केस आपको याद रखना है, 2010 का केस है. तो इसके बाद से सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि भाई हाँ ठीक है, ये एक तरीके से है फंडामेंटल राइट्स का वायलेशन, बट बिकॉज वी हैव डिस्कस दैट फंडामेंटल राइट्स आर नॉट एब्सोल्यूट इन नेचर, तो एक तरीके से एक्सेप्शन उन्होंने ये क्रिएट किया कि लाई डिटेक्टर टेस्ट सिर्फ बहुत कम केसेस में होगा, रेयर केसेस में होगा, एंड उसके लिए आपको सुप्रीम कोर्ट की परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी. अगर हम अलाउ करेंगे तभी आप लाई डिटेक्टर टेस्ट कर सकते हो या पॉलीग्राफ टेस्ट कर सकते हो. तो अगेन लीगल वैलिडिटी उसकी अभी भी क्वेश्चनेबल है कि इज इट अ फंडामेंटल राइट वायलेशन, येस और नो, बट अभी इट्स सब्जेक्ट टू अप्रूवल बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट, एंड दैट इज व्हाट दिस होल आर्टिकल इज टेलिंग यू अबाउट. ठीक है, आप लोग पढ़ सकते हो इस आर्टिकल को, काफी इंटरेस्टिंग आर्टिकल है. देखो, on August 26, CBI conducted a second round of polygraph test on 7 people in connection with the RG Kar case. In 2010 paper published in this journal, psychiatric expert this said that lie detection techniques have faced a number of criticism and their effectiveness in revealing concealed knowledge in applied real world settings remains uncertain. In 2010, in the case of Selvi versus State of Karnataka, Supreme Court ruled that no lie detector test should be administered except on the basis of consent of the accused. ठीक है, in accordance with the fundamental right against self-incrimination as enshrined in 23 of the not 23 20 clause 3 of the Constitution. ठीक है, तो बाकी ये सारा उन्होंने समझाया हुआ है कि एक दो और क्या केसेस थे, किस किस टाइप के आपके डिसेप्शन टेस्ट होते हैं, डिसेप्शन डिटेक्शन टेस्ट. तो ये आप लोग पढ़ सकते हो डिटेल में and get a good understanding of it. It's an interesting article. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's Hindu analysis. We'll quickly do our vocab and wrap up today's session. The first vocab word for the day is Byzantine. Byzantine means having many parts or aspects that are usually interrelated. Complicated, intricate, complicate, maybe complicated are some synonyms of this. Byzantine. Antonyms are simple, plain, and complicated. He spent his first year at the Pentagon just trying to fathom its Byzantine workings. What is the Pentagon? Do you know? Pentagon क्या चीज है? Then the next word is polemic. Polemic मतलब होता है a speech or piece of writing expressing a strong critical attack or controversial opinion about someone or something. Hostile, bitter, controversial. He launched into a fierce polemic against the government's policies. Interesting word. You can use this in your vocabulary. Add this to your vocabulary. Polemic, criticism ko. Byzantine is having multiple aspects. And the last word is tout, to praise or publicize lavishly and often excessively. Advertise, announce, promote. We should tout our wares on television, says someone. Okay, so 3 words. Tout is praising or publicizing lavishly. Polemic is criticism, speech, controversial speech. And Byzantine is having multiple aspects which are interrelated, complicated. So these are your 3 words for the day. That brings us to the end of today's session. We'll wrap up our session here today. And you'll have Salixer's class as scheduled at 6 p.m. and then the English class at 8 p.m. by Savitri ma'am. I hope you enjoyed today's class. If yes, quickly give a like on this video, please. And do drop your comments on which topics do you want your next Menti quiz. The next Menti quiz is tomorrow. Please come prepared with your current affairs of June, July, and August. we'll have a MCQ based quiz on these 3 months. Okay, I'll keep it easy to moderate, but try to prepare really well. We'll have 15 to 20 questions in the Menti quiz, and I hope all of you perform really well in that. तो इससे आपका 3 महीने का रिविजन भी हो जाएगा. So take this seriously. We'll have this tomorrow at 3 p.m. after our Hindu analysis. And yes, I hope to see you all tomorrow in huge numbers. Bye bye. Take care. That's the end of today's class. Thank you so much. Signing off.